The Hokies have an SEC road trip in week 1. Can the Vanderbilt Commodores hand Virginia Tech an L?
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. They fix tired fast. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th. On one order, cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. On this episode, we're going to be crossing over with Corey Burton, who does an awesome job on Locked On Vandy. And Kenton and I will be representing Virginia Tech for the honor of the Atlantic Coast Conference. The Hokies have a road trip at Vanderbilt this weekend. Virginia Tech actually 13.5-point favorites for this noon kickoff, but maybe Corey has something to say about that. Welcome, of course, Kenton Gibbs, and welcome, Corey Burton. Hopefully Vanderbilt gets off to a hot start for your sake. What's the offseason buzz been like?
The offseason buzz has been aplenty. There's been a lot of moves. Probably the most notable move, if I'm being honest, is Jerry Kill. Jerry Kill is a master program builder. Just kind of an X factor for Clark Lee is actually allowing Clark Lee to be more of a defensive coordinator and kind of fix the defense and do that thing. But he's been phenomenal since he got to campus. New strength program, which has been outstanding. You're seeing tremendous gains there. New coordinator, a bunch of new transfers. I mean, the buzz it just seemed like from January until they started spring practice, it just seemed like there was something every other day where you're just like, okay, this is awesome, right? So there's a lot of positive vibes, positive buzz going on around the program.
And on this episode, we're going to get our game predictions for this one. We'll talk about the quarterback matchup, which is an interesting one. Familiar face at Virginia Tech, new face at Vanderbilt, and we'll talk about those keys to the game. And Kenton, I mentioned the Hokies on the road are giving 13.5 points in this one. Do you think that spread is too big, or do you think the Hokies are going to roll?
I think the Hokies are going to roll, and don't get me wrong. I know that Vanderbilt has some talent on that side, and I know that they've done things to improve that team in the portal. However, with all due respect to Locked On Vandy fans, this ain't baseball season. Tech is going to wreck them. Tech is going to wreck them. Okay, I'm sorry to say it. Well, actually, I'm lying. I'm not sorry to say it. I think this could be the beginning of Kyron Drones' Heisman campaign, and I mean that very seriously. I think that Kyron Drones is that good of a player, and you know what advantage he has that most people don't? Not only is he getting a healthy Ali Jennings, it's a transfer quarterback in what year, Donno? Year 2.
Year 2.
That second year is something about that second year with transfer quarterbacks. You bring back the head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback, something that Vanderbilt cannot say they have that same continuity with. And then you combine that with a team that behind them. I've talked ad nauseum about how bad Virginia Tech's run defense is. Their run defense, in terms of statistically, they were middle of the road. They were very middling. But the reality is they were the weakness of that team that held them back from winning more. I'm not sure if Vanderbilt has the horses in the stable to establish the run at an effective rate to keep Pavia and company ahead of the sticks to where you can't see all of those freakish pass rushers that Virginia Tech can trot out at one time in their speed packages and whatnot.
Well, the numbers. Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's what's going to happen in the run game. As far as that goes, there's going to be a lot of misdirection, a lot of formations, a lot of motions, quarterback runs, options, things like that. They have a package for Nate Johnson that I wouldn't be surprised if they unveiled. He's explosive. Pavia is a great downhill runner. So like the run game is something that they have been constructing from day one, because that's what Tim Beck, Jerry Kill did at New Mexico State. They brought pretty much the entire operation over to Nashville. And if you want to get an idea of what they would look like against a team like Virginia Tech, watch what New Mexico State did to Auburn a year ago.
I recall that one.
And here's the deal. I absolutely I would not say that this Vanderbilt team is like, hey, they're terrible. They're an unserious outfit, anything along those lines. Because there have been times in the past where respectfully,
last year was the most atrocious year I've ever seen.
Exactly. There have been times where Vanderbilt was not a serious operation. You are absolutely right, Corey. They're taking steps in the right direction. However, I think if you're looking at these two teams and saying they're both in rebuild or in different stages of a rebuild, you're looking at one team that's just now building back up after stripping down to the studs, as opposed to one that's got the foundation in place. We put the roof on. We're now just adding in the little touches and
putting the walls in, the doors.
Exactly.
We're landscaping.
But Virginia Tech has the copper wiring put in already. They got all of that type of stuff. They got the what's the word?
They're getting ready to move in.
Exactly. Yeah. They have all of the stuff to keep you warm. I can't remember what the word is right now, but they got that to keep you warm in there. They've got everything going. Where I think the Vanderbilt is just, again, they're at a point where it's down to the studs and building back up. If this game were to happen 2 years from now, I may have a different opinion on it. I just think these are two teams in different parts of a rebuild where you're looking at a team with some of the most returning production in not just the Power Four, but in all of college football against a team that could be, depending on upwards of 50% of Vanderbilt starters could be transfers. Like, that's a very real reality that we could see.
I think you may be right. I have to look back at the roster, the percentages, but you might be right about that. We've got a lot of transfers in there. They're contributing now, especially on the defensive line and in the secondary. So this is going to be a fun game. It's going to be a really fun game.
Well, Corey, you look at this from the Vanderbilt perspective. Give us some keys to the game. Like, what has to happen for them to pull off the upset against the Hokies?
Well, first of all, defensive line, defensive front, really, they have to affect Kyron Drones. They have to get in his face. They have to get him off of rhythm. They have to penetrate gaps, and they have to take shots on him. They have to create havoc. They have to be super aggressive. If they sit back and try to play anything conservatively, Virginia Tech will steamroll. If they want to have any shot, they've got to get takeaways, tackles for loss. They've got to force Virginia Tech to punt and then capitalize off those things. Offensively, again, Virginia Tech is going to be able to constrict the field because the vertical passing game is still, they're pouring the foundation on that right now. So that's still very much a work in progress. The run game is going to be a lot stronger, but they're going to have to kind of build out from around that, and they're going to have to do that within a constricted field. And if they can do that, if they can find a way to create horizontal space, they can take advantage of that and maybe push some vertical space after that. But they're going to have to get creative in the run game, and then of course they've got to dominate special teams.
Kenton, anything you want to add from the Virginia Tech point of view? I know you already outlined some keys to a potential steamrolling. It sounded like you were hinting at, but what are you looking at for keys?
The keys for Virginia Tech is simple. Stay ahead of the sticks. Be who you are and be good at it, okay? With all due respect, I think that Virginia Tech's receivers are good. I think the offensive line and running game is better. I think they're a much better group. I think if you're in a situation where you have to worry about, in 3rd and 9, I'm not worried as much about Kyron Drones' legs as I am on 3rd and 1. Like, with all due respect, he's a big guy. He's bigger than people give him credit for. And when he gets in those short yardage situations, either him or Byshaw Tootin can get you 3 feet. It's a very different situation to ask him to get 27 feet on the ground, right? So with that in mind, I think that the biggest thing for them is to stay on schedule, on time, on target. And defensively, you talked about it, Corey. The run game is going to be there to some extent. The run game is going to be what they want to do. And you talked about the misdirection. You talked about the motion. You talked about all those things. Stay your tail at home. Stay disciplined. For those of you who don't know football talk, that means don't overrun your gap. Make your play in your gap, because when teams lose that discipline, that's where you could see yourself get gashed. That's where you can see Johnson will be the fastest player on the field, most likely. Johnson from Vanderbilt. He is dynamic. I know everybody was going crazy over him being the fastest quarterback on NCAA 25 and all that. Yeah. But if you've ever seen that young man play, he really does. He makes fast guys. That's what I'm saying. He makes fast guys look slow. That's how fast and explosive he is. So if you overrun your gaps on a guy like him, you will be striking up the band. You will be hearing anchor down. You will be hearing all the things that a game that should not be close will be closer than it should be. And I'll tell you what, if you let Vanderbilt hang around, they have enough explosive athletes to get it done. They have a tight end over there that is special. He is a Taysom Hillish guy. He's done everything. He's played quarterback. He's played tight end. He's done everything, and he's a special guy with the ball under his right arm. So I say all this to say, when I look at Vanderbilt, I say if I was Virginia Tech, the key is to get in early, and in the words of Bill Yost, blitz all night. Because if you let this team establish that run and keep this game close, you could look up and say, wait a minute, did our season that was supposed to end in Charlotte or end in the New Year's Six Bowl or end in the playoff, did we just find ourselves ending in Nashville?
Yeah, and you talked about Eli Stowers at tight end. We're not even talking about the 6'7", 250-pound behemoth Cole Spence, who's been lighting up at camp. I mean, he's a nightmare as a target. And so I think for Virginia Tech, they've got to find ways to slow him down as well. And Vanderbilt, you could see them in a lot of 12 personnel.
Well, we're going to give our score predictions when we come back. And Virginia Tech Hokies are giving 13.5 points on the road at Vanderbilt. We're not done yet, my friends. We got Corey Burton with us from Locked On Vandy. Got, of course, Kenton Gibbs. I'm Alex Donno. Keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, I already know you're keeping it locked to Factor meals because, we're eating healthy, and that 2-minute prep time is clutch. You're busy. You don't want to bother cooking. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious. From breakfast to dessert, stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 and use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. We are also proudly brought to you by eBay Motors. My friends, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into this Locked On ACC, Locked On Vandy crossover. So happy that Corey Burton from Locked On Vandy can join us. You got Virginia Tech and Vandy opening up their seasons in Nashville this weekend, Saturday, 12 noon. And, Kenton, from where I sit, I'm usually a little bit hesitant to make week one bets in games between two Power Four squads because we literally have not seen either of these teams until last year. Corey's given me a lot to think about with the way Vanderbilt has been trending. I am leaning towards Virginia Tech minus 13.5. Do you want to talk me into locking that in, Kenton, before I let Corey talk me out of it?
In the words of my friend and my good friend Drake Tolan, our now defunct Locked On College Football Live, I'll sell you why. What I'm going to tell you in terms of why Virginia Tech covers that spread is very simple. One of these teams has Kyron Drones, the other does not. Kyron Drones is that special of a player, another year continuity, and his best receiver was hurt a lot of last year. People greatly discount how good Ali Jennings truly is. Like, you talk about the returning production on that team. Imagine returning 86% of your production and then adding in a guy that was supposed to be your number one guy last year. Ali Jennings is a guy that is he's what I like to call a 7-11 receiver. You know what that means? The man is always open. He's always open. You can find a way to say, you know what, forget it. Ali down there somewhere. Throw that thing up at zero, gonna come down with it. The reality of this game is that, with all due respect to Vanderbilt, this is a team that is in the early stages of a rebuild, and you're looking at them trying to stop Byshaw Tootin. You're looking at them trying to stop Kyron Drones. You're looking at them trying to stop Ali Jennings and company out wide, but you're looking at them trying to do that with a brand new core of guys. And we have seen that some teams can add in flavor and pieces from the transfer portal, but that's just what the transfer portal should be. The transfer portal should be you adding in a little bit of spice to the food. It shouldn't be the main dish. It shouldn't be the whole thing. And that's the place that Vanderbilt is at. Again, this is a program that's on the rise. You're right. Donno, you're right. Corey, you're right. This is a program churning up and to the right, but so is Virginia Tech. They just started that trend a little earlier. So I think that Virginia Tech takes care of business handling down in Music City. But, I will say this. In Vanderbilt's defense, I will say this. If they were to cover the 14 points, I wouldn't be the most shocked, and I wouldn't ding Virginia Tech for that. I just don't think they will.
Right.
I think that Virginia Tech wins handily in this one.
All right, so before I click confirm on my FanDuel account for Virginia Tech minus 13.5, Corey, you can sell me why the Commodores are going to cover and perhaps win the game outright.
Yeah, so here's why they're going to cover, right? So atmosphere. Okay, Vanderbilt is, in an odd way, a very tough place to play because you got an 11 a.m. kick. It's usually just kind of a weird vibe lately. I don't know how the vibe's going to be on Saturday, but it's definitely a weird vibe. You have a lot of construction going on, a lot of emotional interference happening with where Virginia Tech's going to get dressed, how they're going to enter the field, how they're going to deal with all of that distraction. It's going to be blazing hot. And then you have an actual coordinator calling the defense, which last year I heard Clark Lee say this in his weekly press conference, and this absolutely floored me, that they were only able to play one coverage last year. I'll let that sink in for you guys. They were only able to play one coverage. Let's just say their coordinator was in over his head, and then Clark Lee, it just got too bad, and he just couldn't do anything about it, and it just snowballed. Offensively, they're going to have an identity. Defensively, they're going to have an identity. Their main playmakers are actually Vanderbilt guys. They're not portal guys. So like C.J. Taylor, Langston Patterson, DeRicky Wright. You have Cedric Alexander. You have your starting we have a strong tackle and a quick tackle. Like we have strong side, quick side philosophy on the offensive line. So that's going to be interesting. So you're starting quick tackle as a Vanderbilt guy. You're starting strong guard as a Vanderbilt guy. You're starting starting quick guard is also a Vanderbilt guy too. So your three of your starting offensive linemen are Vanderbilt guys. Your three wide receivers are Vanderbilt incumbents. So you've got a lot of Vanderbilt pieces out there, and the transfer portal guys are actually backing them up. So they're going to have an actual identity. They have Jerry Kill, new strength program. I think they're going to cover. I think all of that stuff is going to play into at least they're going to cover, maybe outright win if Virginia Tech gives them opportunities and things kind of align perfectly for an outright win. And hopefully we take advantage of. We hope that Virginia Tech's going to come in very overconfident because they have Kyron Drones and because they have Ali Jennings, because they have Tootin, because they are what they are and where they are. We're hoping that overconfidence will come in and they will get surprised.
Well, could there be a shocker 2 weeks in a row involving ACC teams? Not a whole lot of people thought Georgia Tech would pull it off against Florida State last week. Not a whole lot of people think Vandy can pull it off against Virginia Tech, but first game of the year, stranger things have happened. Huge shout out and thank you to Corey Burton. And by the way, we're on both channels, so want to send a big shout out to Locked On Vandy viewers and listeners. Locked On ACC viewers and listeners. It's always nice to connect with SEC hosts when we can, so we can keep that blood feud that we all have going on with the SEC going.
We'll show them if it just means more this Saturday at high noon in Nashville.
We will show you. We will show you that it means more. We'll show you
guys,
how we.
After you make Locked On ACC and Locked On Vandy your first and second listen, make your next listen Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin does a fantastic job talking about all the big games and all the big stories. And every now and then we turn up as guests on his show. He does a great job. So we will talk to you guys next time. Of course, you got Vandy hosting Virginia Tech, noon Eastern time on Saturday. We'll talk to you later on another episode right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. See ya.
Ken, Alex, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. If you need that boost of energy right before you work out, take 5 Hour Energy. Man, this is outstanding. With zero sugar, convenient portable sizes, perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. So go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com and get some 5 Hour Energy product today. Use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive $20 off or 20% off, your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. That's the number 5hourenergy.com today. Welcome back. This crossover, we are wrapping up here, third and final segment as we get you into the weekend here. Kenton, you and Donno, so gracious in letting me on. This has been such a fun ride. I'm pretty new to Locked On, so I haven't made my way around a lot of the show. So I've heard of your show, but I really haven't gotten around to listening to it. I will now because you guys are awesome.
Appreciate you.
But we've been talking Virginia Tech, Vandy, keys to the game, all of that good stuff. So, Kenton, Vanderbilt's going to win if finish that.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing. You're flipping the script here. You gotta pick the other guys. Okay, I'm with you. Vanderbilt wins this game if they can find a way to hang around. That's my biggest thing. Vanderbilt has to keep this game close. If they can weather the storm of the first 3.5 quarters, I firmly believe the home atmosphere, the energy of a new coaching staff, the energy of we're not the same old Commodores. This is a different team. We have to believe it's different in Nashville, and the ability to hang around with a Power 4 dark horse, with a team that some are considering, hey, Florida State's down. This could be their year. Michael Vick ain't walking through that door, but we got something close.
They got something close.
If you're hey, none of the Fuller brothers are walking through that door, but Dorian Strong's a damn good DB in his own right. If you can find a way to keep this game close, Vanderbilt, and just make one or two plays down the stretch, Vanderbilt wins this game. I don't see a world where Vanderbilt scores a blowout here, but I think if Vanderbilt keeps it within striking distance at the end, if Vanderbilt can find a way to make this thing go to overtime, if Vanderbilt finds a way to say, you know what, like you talked about, that weird vibe situation, the king of weird vibes is Virginia Tech. But the unfortunate part about being the king of weird vibes is that you can succumb to those weird vibes when they're working against you and not in your favor, as Enter the Sandman and all of those things for Virginia Tech does. So if Vanderbilt can just keep it within striking distance, Vanderbilt would not only have the ability to win this game, but I'll say this much. If this is a 3-point game with under 2 minutes left, I could surely see Vanderbilt pulling it off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that. That's a great take, man. I love that. I absolutely love that. This is, Vanderbilt's a team that needs that juice they need that juice of being able to hang around. They need that momentum of, oh, hey, we can do this, because they're not used to winning. They're not used to being in these games. Third quarter, it's let's just finish this thing out without getting too many people hurt, because it hasn't been a serious operation. Last year, it was was better the year before, and then it like dropped off because I think Clark Lee just said, "Hey, I'm going to trust these guys," and it ended up biting him in the you know what. So
yeah, for sure. So on the flip side of that, Virginia Tech wins if they jump on Vandy early. So Kyron Drones is going to have to score. I think if Virginia Tech can score on their first 2 possessions, they can score with big plays, they get takeaways on defense, and they limit their giveaways on offense, they play a clean game and play like they are supposed to play and capable of playing, they will win this game. They have to limit and squash any sort of momentum plays from Vandy. Vandy has to thrive on havoc plays and big plays and chunk yardage on offense to kind of control the clock a little bit, because Vandy's not going to hit any explosives. They're just not built like that yet. And they're going to have to limit the chunk plays. They're going to have to keep Vandy off schedule offensively. They're going to stay on schedule. They got to stop Vandy's offense from staying on schedule. Then they got to stay on schedule themselves with Kyron Drones, finding Ollie Jennings early and often, sustaining a run game, things like that. Just being ahead of schedule and really kind of beating Vanderbilt at their own game of controlling the clock and maybe hit some explosives there. So Virginia Tech, man, this is when I looked at them, I tried to find some weak points, and I just, their front seven is so good against the pass. Yeah. I think their front seven's good enough against the pass that they can be decent enough against the run to really be dangerous. I said, because I just, for lack of better options, I said, okay, well, Vandy's going to get this. They're going to have to get it through the secondary. They're going to have to get it through the passing, and they're going to have to draw them in and hit a vertical shot at some point in this game if they're going to win. Vandy cannot play against in a constricted field, in Virginia Tech. If they win, it means they've constricted the field on defense, limited Vandy's production on first and second down, and offensively just running. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this much: this is not the only matchup of SEC and ACC teams this weekend.
That's right.
But I will say this: this has the potential to be the closest of the three. Ooh. Because I think that you and I will both agree, Georgia Clemson, right? Yeah. I think we both think Georgia's going to take them out back and whoop them like they stole something. Yeah. Now, Florida Miami, however, that one is a little bit more interesting. That one is a little bit of one.
I like Cam Ward. Cam Ward.
And that's the thing. We all like Ward, but can you trust Mario? And then you look on the other sideline and you say, well, you may not be able to trust Mario, but what has Billy Napier shown you to say I can trust him?
Nothing.
And so now you get into what are these two coaches coaching for? So if you could for a second, what do you think is going to happen with that?
Florida Miami. I'm going to defer to the home team on this one, because there's going to be a lot of equal things. Like, you have two pretty good quarterbacks, or you have one really good quarterback and a good quarterback, Cam Ward, the really good, almost elite quarterback, best in Pac-12 last year, besides Caleb Williams. Of course. And you have Graham Mertz, who was extremely productive, but just underachieved because his team was awful and they had no – I just think the coaching just kind of screwed him. And I rarely say that, but in this case it's true. But you get Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier, who they leave me scratching my head. And so when you have those things that are equal, you always got to kind of defer to the home team in those situations. So I do think Florida can pull this out. But no scenario in this game would surprise me. Miami could come out and boat race them, would not be shocked. Florida could come out and boat race Miami, would not be shocked. Any scenario here would not leave me shocked, but I'm going to defer to the home team.
I in close games like this, I normally agree that the home team, the tie goes to the runner, as they say. However, there's a definitive edge at quarterback that I think is so big. I think Miami goes ahead and takes this one. And that's, that's a situation I think is going to work itself out for Miami. And so you and I, it's exactly 3 games, SEC and ACC now. So all in all, who do you have winning round 1 in week 1 of the ACC-SEC matchup?
Round 1 goes to the SEC. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think it's going to be Georgia, Florida, and then Virginia Tech's gonna claim the ACC win this week.
Okay, I will tell you this. I hear you, and that's I agree with you on Georgia. If it wasn't for Georgia, the ACC might pull out the brooms. The Sandman may be coming. If we were at Showtime at the Apollo, the Sandman would be sweeping them off stage. Yeah, off stage. But because of Georgia, I think the SEC gets one, but I think the ACC takes the 2 undercard bouts in this one. So we'll see how this thing will play out. Thank you so very much for having me on, Corey. It has been a blast chatting with you. Thank you to Locked On Vandy Nation. Thank you to Locked On ACC Nation for rocking with us. Until next time, folks.
Peace. Anchordown.